Welcome to the webinar. Thank you for joining us for this, the final session of our three-part Vision Showcase with CNIB Frontier Accessibility and their partners. Today, the folks from CNIB Frontier Accessibility are joined by a representative from Vispero. This webinar is hosted by the Network of Assistive Technologists on this Friday, the 23rd of April, 2021. Please join me in welcoming today's presenters. First, we have Andrea Voss joining us from CNIB Frontier Accessibility. Andrea has been helping blind or partially sighted students for over 20 years. As an expert in assistive devices and technologies, Andrea is the overall educational lead and manages support for English-speaking students in Ontario and Atlantic Canada. Also from CNIB Frontier Accessibility, we are joined by Bob Dodd. Bob is a digital accessibility thought leader who heads the digital accessibility team and their mission to make the digital world a truly accessible place. And from Vispero, we are joined by their Canadian Managing Director, Corneliu Hoza. With a background in electromechanics and industrial electronics, Corneliu has been supporting those with vision loss for over 16 years. For the past 4 years, he has been the Managing Director for Vispero Canada, where he focuses on helping customers find the right solution. So welcome, Andrea, Bob, and Corneliu, and thank you for joining us today. And with that said, I'd like to now hand the screen sharing over to our guests as they begin today's presentation.
Okay, thank you, Doug. I'm going to share the screen. Voila. Okay, so thanks so much, everyone. Yes, this is the third installment, number 3 of 3 webinars, a series from CNIB Frontier Accessibility. And we are featuring our technology partner, Vispero, today, and we will be hearing from Corneliu. And after that, Bob Dodd, who is going to talk about some of the digital accessibility services and solutions that we provide. But also, I'm going to talk a little bit about a partnership that CNIB Frontier Accessibility has, and that is with the LEGO Foundation. So the CNIB is helping distribute the LEGO Braille bricks to vision educators here in Canada. And we're very excited to do so. These LEGO Braille brick kits are free to that designated user group, to vision educators. And this project really has been many years in the making, I think almost 13 years. They've invested millions of dollars in this project. If you can imagine, if you could think about a Lego brick, no matter what kind of set somebody buys, if it's a Harry Potter set or Jurassic Park or Marvel, whatever the set is, the bricks are common in their molds and their sizing. It's just the colors and the configurations that are different, but essentially they're dealing with the same brick molds. Well, as you can imagine, for the LEGO Braille brick project, they had to create and build all brand new molds because each LEGO Braille brick has a Braille letter on it, as well it has the printed character on that brick as well. There is a real background to this. There's a pedagogy that needs to be followed, and that's why the LEGO Foundation wants to get these kits in the hands of vision educators. So let me just show you a 2-minute video about the LEGO Braille bricks.
For blind people, Braille is literacy. The only other real option for someone who's got no sight is to listen. And by listening, you lose a lot of spelling, grammar, punctuation.
I started learning Braille when I was 5. It empowers me and enables me to do things that I would have never been able to do before.
What we are doing here today is showing the potential of LEGO Braille bricks to help children learn Braille and to engage with the process of Braille.
Children dislike making mistakes. If you're using a Braille machine, your mistakes are there, written large. Children love being able to make something, unmake it if it's wrong, and make it again. And that is the important thing that Braille bricks does. And it is making mathematics, English, Spanish, French, literacy far more accessible than it ever was before.
At the moment, we've just been multiplying, dividing,
including
the
decimals,
and decimals,
which is quite challenging.
very challenging. Hundredths, tenths, units.
I mainly use the bricks in Spanish. Is giving us another tool to explore learning languages. And Paige, you enjoy it, right? Yeah. Muy bien. Y finalmente.
Gracias. It's different from anything I've done before, and especially with younger students, I think it helps them to fiddle and play.
Having something tangible that you can rearrange in so many ways.
It's ridiculous that all it does for us really is give us convenient access to moving letters around, but that opens up so many doors, and that's a wonderful thing.
Lego Braille bricks make learning more fun. I gave them to my students just to see how they would get on with them. Couldn't get them off them. We spent the whole lesson making up games and playing with them. It was just such an engaging and fun time.
78.
Spot on. Spot on.
Got it.
Spot on. Using the Braille bricks yesterday, I saw that moment when a child actually has properly understood something, and we know what it feels like ourselves when it finally clicks into place and we say, yeah, I've got it. When you see that in a child, that is what keeps teachers going. High five.
Okay, so what's interesting about the Lego Braille bricks is that the Lego Foundation, they have hired consultants, and those consultants have created all kinds of activities. I'm actually on the legobraillebricks.com website. This is the site that I'm showing you. But they have pre-Braille activities and Braille activities, and this can all be found on this website. I think there's over 90 activities altogether. There's also webinars that you can watch through this website, through the facilitation. There's a webinar replay. And in order for someone to get Lego Braille bricks, they can either go to the legobraillebricks.com website. There's a section called Get Bricks. If we go down to Canada, oh, here's a picture of the toolkit. There's about 300 bricks inside this toolkit, and it comes with 3 base plates with different colors. Right now, the distribution, we just received our kits to distribute to Canadians in January, and we started distributing them in March. But there's about 2,500. We have 2,000 English, 500 French. So, but there's about 7 languages and 20 countries that received these kits so far. So in Canada, we click on Canada, we then you see all my information there, so you can contact me directly, or you can go to one of the links which registers your interest in Lego Braille. Now you do have to be a vision educator. Your responsibility is to teach Braille, and those are the defined user group that can receive the brick kit. So what we've really done so far is we've enabled or registered a lot of vision teachers, vision itinerant teachers across the country. They have registered their interest. They have to watch at least one webinar, and then they have to sign a terms of use agreement and provide us their shipping information, as well as let us know how many Braille students that they are, or learners that they are supporting. And in our first wave of distribution, we are sending out kits to all these individual teachers, many of whom are at home. So we've had to ship the kits to their home addresses. But then as we gather information about how many students are in particular school boards, we will soon be shipping out numerous kits to those boards so we can support the vision programs and support the teachers and create more access to learning Braille in a really fun way. Obviously, the Lego Foundation loves the concept learning through play. And, we're really proud to be a partner and helping to manage the distribution here in Canada. So that's all I have to say about that. So certainly if you have any questions about anything, feel free to ask. But I think I will stop my sharing, and I will have my friend and colleague Corneliu start sharing his so he can let you know all about the wonderful, wonderful technology available through Vispero. And maybe talk about what is Vispero.
Thank you, Andrea.
You're welcome.
So as Andrea said, Vispero. So the name the company that is using worldwide is the name Vispero, but in Canada, we've used the name Optelec. The reason why they chose Vispero worldwide, it's because under the banner Vispero, there's Optelec Canada, there's Freedom Scientific, Enhanced Vision, AI Squared. So since 2015, there's been a merger in the industry, and this company purchased all the big companies worldwide and put them under the same umbrella, and they decided to go with the name Vispero. But in Canada, we work under Optelec. It's been like this for almost 30 years now, and it made only sense to keep the same name because not many people know about Vispero in Canada, but when you mention Optelec, everybody knows about Optelec. So that's the background between Vispero and Optelec. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about 4 or 5 items that have been very, very popular for the past years, especially with students across Canada. One of the first items, and I'm going to show you a YouTube video, but I'm not going to put the sound. I'm going to be doing the talking, and I'm just going to skip a little bit because some videos are longer than needed. The first product, it's the Clearview Go, either 17 or 15-inch screen, and it's a portable, foldable unit. And as you can see on the picture, this is the full unit when it's opened. But when you close it down, it looks like a big laptop, and it's about 11 pounds, and it comes with a carrying case. So it's very easy to transport the unit from one place to another. It's your standard CCTV, so it has all the magnification, it has all the colors, contrast, and everything. The advantage of a unit like this, it's the camera in the back, and this is where the guy is playing with. So it's a camera that you can twist it, and you can look at distance, but you can also turn it around, and you can do self-view, and at the same time, you can look down at your documents. And what he's doing right now is he's taking a picture of something at a distance, and then he can magnify it to the magnification that you want to use it and you need it. And with the scrolling, you can pan. So you can read everything, but you can take a bigger screenshot and then magnify it. And with the full high definition camera, you still have a really nice clear picture. So you can look at something that's in really distance and take a full picture. The second product, so this is the first one. The second product, it's the Transformer High Definition with Wi-Fi and OCR. This unit can be connected to any laptop, can be connected also to Chromebook, but also tablets. And in this video, you see that transformer being connected to an iPad by Wi-Fi. So it's a unit that doesn't come with a screen, but it does have an HDMI connection if you want to connect the unit to an external screen. Or like I said, you can connect it to any laptop or tablet. This unit also comes with OCR, which is optical character recognition. So the unit can take a picture of a text and read it back to you. And I think that's what he does as well. Also, he's using it if you want to write something. So this is what he does. So he's magnifying on the text underneath, and you can use it to fill out forms, to do crossword puzzles, mathematic equations, anything. So it's a very flexible unit, and it's a very small unit that you can carry it with you anywhere. And like I said, it can be connected to any tablet and any computer. And it's a very small foldable unit. I'm just going to show you at the end. We're talking maybe 4 or 5 pounds, and it comes also with a carrying case if you want to bring the carrying case with you. But the carry case only makes it a little bit bigger because it carries the charger, the external battery charger, because the unit has is working on a rechargeable battery, but you can also use it plugged to the electricity if your battery is completely drained. Another product that that Optelec came out in the past year and a half, it's the Compact 10 HD with or without OCR. This is a portable video magnifier, and I'm just going to show you the product right there. So it's your standard video magnifier, but with a 10-inch screen, except that the OCR version, so the optical character recognition version, has an arm that comes out. So I'm just going to try and see the full arm. This is the arm that comes out, and you have a camera at the end. And when the arm is out, you can actually use the unit to write. So do exactly the same tasks as you were doing with the transformer, because you can put the unit, you can put your text on the right-hand side of the unit. And you can still, like the lady is doing, you can do crossword puzzles, you can write with the unit, you can take pictures with the unit, you can save pictures with the unit, and it does OCR, like I said, as well. And the unit as well, you can connect it with an external monitor if you have a smart monitor or even a TV. And it's a very small unit, very portable, rechargeable battery, just like the other units, with 3 high-definition cameras that you can use for distance, like the gentleman was doing in just trying to remember where he was looking at. Sorry, it's the first time that I'm using this this video like this. So if he's looking at something, you can access the 3rd camera, which is a distance camera, and you can look at a board in a meeting, and then you can put it down on your desk and you can use it to write or to read something. And just going to go to the next product, which is also from Vispero, but from the banner Freedom Scientific. It's your Focus Braille display, refreshable Braille display. This is our newest display that's been on the market for, I'd say, 2 years. It's a lighter unit than the previous one. It's also not as fragile because the casing is made in aluminum. The old one was in plastic, so it's not as easy as to break. And it's also a unit that you can connect up to 5 devices at the same time, plus an extra one by USB. So all those 5 devices can be by Bluetooth, plus the 5th one by USB. This device also has a micro USB card that can be used for the scratch pad. It's a built-in scratch pad where you can take notes. You can also connect it and read books through different, you can download books from different organizations and read it directly on your Braille display. I wish I could talk to you more about it, but I'm not a Braille user, so it's hard for me to explain more about this product. The next one, and this is one that I need to find the volume. It's called the Orcam Read. This is a device that is using OCR to read text. It's not a unit that will save the text, so you can't save it, but it's a unit that you can read any text. And it can be used by people with dyslexia, reading difficulties, learning disabilities, fatigue. I've seen blind people using this device because it's very easy to read with it, and low vision people as well. So I'm just going to I don't know if you can hear the sound.
No, it's not coming through, Corneliu. When you shared your screen, you might not have checked the box on your Zoom toolbar under the 3 dots where there's more. It says more.
There we go.
Yeah, there will be an option to share computer sound.
Yeah. It should be a little bit faster. Pause. I'm just gonna try and find a.
We're still not getting the audio.
Yeah, there's a problem with the Zoom saying Zoom meeting is not responding. There's a problem with the connection with the meeting. It doesn't.
Okay. Is it still not responding to your
end? It's still not responding. It's saying Zoom meeting is not responding. So I'm just gonna play the video just to have an idea of what.
On the Zoom tool or on the YouTube toolbar where the play button is, there's a small microphone icon that was muted. It's beside the timing there.
Can you still hear me?
I can now. You had cut out there for a moment.
Yeah, same for you. I wasn't able to hear you.
Okay.
Something about YouTube?
Yeah, on the YouTube playback bar, where the progress bar, just beside the play button and the pause button, there's a microphone icon. No, it's still no audio coming through, but let's watch the video and we'll make sure that the link is in the replay.
So this is a device that's been out for about, I'd say, a year, maybe just a little bit over a year. And it's a really interesting device because it's so portable. You can drag it with you anywhere. It works on battery, rechargeable battery. You can also put, like the video said, headphones, and you can be somewhere and not bother anybody around you. And the OCR is very, very, very accurate. And for students who want to read something real fast, it's a really powerful tool to bring with them. And it's something that we've been, like I said, we've been selling for about a year and a half. All those Orcam products. Our next topic is the 3 softwares that the company is selling. ZoomText is the first one. If people don't know about it, it's a magnification software for low vision people. It has two versions: the ZoomText magnifier and the magnifier reader. The magnifier only does magnification. The magnifier reader magnifies, but it also has the ability of reading the text back to you. The reading part is not 100% So it's not reading exactly 100% of all your page because ZoomText, it's made for low vision people. So yes, it's accurate, but it won't read everything. Comparison to JAWS, which is your software.
Looks like the internet has finally given out for Corneliu. Unfortunately, he'll be joining back in a few moments, hopefully. I know he's working from home today instead of the office, so maybe the internet is a little more under some strain there. So, Andrea or
Yes.
Bob, are you?
Yeah.
While we wait for Cornelia to come back, did you want to bring any CNIB Frontier material back in, or maybe Bob's presentation?
Well, Bob, I think if you're ready, I guess Cornelia was just going to go over ZoomText, JAWS, and Fusion. And I mean, I can just briefly say that, you know, as Cornelia said, ZoomText Magnifier and ZoomText Magnifier Reader are two versions of ZoomText. And obviously, they magnify what is on the screen. In a floating toolbar, you have access to controls, or with your keyboard, you can do some quick keyboard commands with ZoomText to increase the magnification, change the color, contrast. You can actually read text that's on the screen, whereas JAWS is the actual screen reader, and it's designed to read everything on a screen from the top left corner down to the bottom right. And Fusion actually is just a product that provides a user access to either ZoomText or JAWS. They can have access to either. So, but with JAWS, you know, that's why if we segue into accessibility and digital accessibility, my colleague Bob Dodd is going to talk about that just momentarily. But it's very important that, you know, we talk about design, accessible design, because we want screen readers to be able to access the information that is on the screen. I mean, you know, we can't, you know, if a screen reader, they don't really peruse, browse, or scan information as somebody who's sighted does. So everything has to be in a logical location. Oh, here comes Cornelia. I was just kind of filling in and talking about the importance of a screen reader and ZoomText, and why that's so important for accessibility based on, you know, the function of those softwares.
Yeah, sorry about that's the beauty of online meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm just gonna, so what were you saying, Andrea? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. So I just actually gave a little brief overview of ZoomText and JAWS, and I'm not sure if you want to just talk about Fusion. I said that you can have access to, if you own a Fusion license, you essentially get one license of ZoomText as well as JAWS. So you have the ability to access either license.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, but I think it could be a good segue for Bob also. After you speak about Fusion, then Bob can just talk about digital accessibility.
Well, like you just said, Fusion, it's you know, so it's much easier to you know, to control compared to, you know, two different ones, JAWS and ZoomText. And it gives you the, like you said, flexibility, because it can be either on any computer, and there's no restriction, you know, especially when you install the software on a network like a school board. If you have 300 computers, you can install it on 300 computers. There's no restriction on what computer any student can go and access the software. And it can be any software. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's great. Is there anything else that you're going to talk about, or is it now time for Bob?
It's time for Bob now.
It's Bob time.
Thank you. Thank you. And let me just share my screen. Oh, sorry, you have to stop sharing there first, and then I'll go. Sorry, you're going to have to stop sharing the Fusion screen. There, thank you.
There, and Yeah, if you click stop sharing on your Zoom toolbar, there we
I
go.
did. It just
It was taking a while to register through, I think. There you go,
Yeah.
Bob.
Yes, I should be fine. And I'll just share my desktop directly with you rather than individual screens. I ended up on this sort of call really with work that I was doing with Doug for the Western. So the website we were actually auditing for him. I've got a little page of it up here. It's simple courseware, and we were wanting to look at whether the course itself was accessible and whether the platform the course was sitting in is accessible. Because this is always the problem for educators. You're trying to produce an inclusive course, you're trying to produce accessible media, and it may not just be website material, it could be individual digital material and documents for users that students need to access as well as part of the pedagogy. And you're trying to place all of that content into a system that students can access. And even after all these years, and platforms for universities and schools have been around for a very long time, 20, 30 years, and they still have problems. And if you want to know what kind of problems, let me go back in time for you. Let me go back to 2008. So I'm using the Wayback Machine from Google. Now going back to when I was studying for my PhD back in 2006, 2007 on here. And it's the old website from the Accessibility Research Centre at the University of Teesside in the United Kingdom. And because it's a Wayback Machine, we don't get the pretty pictures, but at least we get the basic content. So we were a little organization where there was 2 academics that basically ran the research center, and we had PhD students and master students within that structure. And I was one of the students, so there's me down there. And we're working on a bunch of different projects, and some of them are going to sound terribly familiar even today. So if you look at the current projects, creating accessible assessments in e-learning, accessible interactive e-learning resources, ambient and spatial sound, which was myself, supporting staff and the inclusion of online resources, knowledge-driven discussion and forums, use of simulations in training, and a learning design model that accommodates adaptation, transformation, and retrievability. All of those ideas are 20, 30 years old, and we still have issues today. So in addition to how I would normally introduce the digital accessibility work at Frontier, education is a little bit different. We realize that with the pressure of the Accessible Canada Act and AODA, people think primarily websites. We have to make our websites accessible. We have to make our courses accessible that are sitting on these websites. The reality is we do understand that there's much more to it in terms of building courses, whether you're at higher education or in schools, and we can try and support you in those activities as well. You need to talk to Andrea about exactly what your needs are, what kind of support you need in terms of consulting, but we can actually support in those areas as well. It's a big, broad area, and it's a little bit niche, but it's also quite wide in terms of the technologies that you're likely to talk about, the impact of accessibility and pedagogy, and so on. So it's a little bit different, and this presentation today is a little bit different because of that. So I just wanted to give you a little feel for the kind of projects that certainly I used to work on. Because I come into the commercial side of accessibility support from the best part of 10, 15 years in academia, directly looking at assistive technology. And my background before that was working on adaptive user interfaces with Nokia research in Helsinki. So I ended up in all of this, just quick side step here. I ended up in all of this because I was working for say Nokia in Helsinki, looking at how to make user interfaces adapt to different work environments for users, depending where you were using your cell phone at the time. And in the middle of all of that work, my father became ill with cancer. I ended up having to sort of give up the job, move back to the UK and support him and care for him. And to help really break the monotony of doing that, I ended up doing a one-day master's to the University of Teesside, really to get out of the house and get away from just the day-to-day caring. And that master's ended up looking at multimedia and accessibility, particularly for people with MS. And that moved on into being a PhD in accessibility and more generally in accessibility in terms of how systems adapt to match user need and preference. And after many years of that and various locations around the world, I ended up here in Canada working for CNIB. So my route into all of this and my route into supporting people within CNIB and then of course back to the commercial world in terms of Frontier has been a bit unusual. So myself, I'm a little bit of a unicorn to have taken that path. You find almost any body that provides you with consultancy for accessibility, particularly digital accessibility. We all come from the oddest of backgrounds and taking the oddest of routes to get there. Now that said, let's have a look at some of the projects back then. When the system wakes up. Oh, there we are. Actually, if we go on to the publications, might be a better start. See, I'm clicking on it. There we are. So there was myself back in 2006 at the Assets Conference in Portland, talking about self-adapting user interfaces as assistive technology. So again, because I came from the Nokia, then I was looking to say, well, how can I make a mobile phone work better for anyone who comes to it? How can we make the user interface adapt? So that was back in 2006. If you think about all of the things you see about accessibility overlays and companies trying to sell you accessibility overlays to adapt your user interface to fix issues related to AODA at the moment, that kind of comes out of this kind of work back in 2006. There are real challenges with it, and the overlays that are out there at the moment simply aren't up to the job, and I strongly suggest you keep away from them. But they're trying to do what we were trying to do back in 2006 again. Otherwise, we were looking at things, back to 2006, investigating the use of speech recognition to create accessible lectures. Because in addition to the courseware itself, you need to think about how students can interact with those lectures. I mean, it's a bit different now particularly with COVID and everything being online. But once we're back into physical locations, there's all of the technology that's needed to help students record the sessions, make the notes, and interact with the professors and staff in the universities and colleges. And that has to be accessible as well. Then we move on to, we go down a little bit more, personal learning environments from an accessibility and adaptability in the design of an inclusive learning management system. Again, that's work that actually came out of Canada back then. There's an international standard for personal learning environments that allows users to describe the environments that they have, and for each individual environment, what kind of assistive technology do they need? And again, not all universities and colleges yet support those personal environments. But the idea is to have a profile that the user can take around with them that describes to each course, to each piece of courseware, what they need when they're working in the classroom, what do they need if they're out on doing field work, what do they need when they're at home in terms of assistive tech, to know what kind of support the students need in terms of material and digital material, in terms of how that needs to be delivered to them. So again, that was being done back then. So everything you see today, all of the issues that you see today have been considered before, and there are solutions out there that you may not be aware of. And again, we can provide some sort of support to you in terms of leading you towards solutions and ideas that have been tried before. So if you're finding that there are problems, particularly with the way you're trying to teach an individual course, it's probably been done before, and I can probably give you some sort of pointers to help you finish that material and find a way to build a course that was inclusive for the particular students, for the particular issues that you're finding. We're not sort of in isolation. There's all this work that's been done before. It's probably been lost. A lot of it's been lost to some extent because funding. These research projects run because the students got 6 months, 2 years, 3 years of funding. You get to the end of the funding, papers get published, and people move on. But the ideas are there, that logic is out, well, those solutions are out there, and I can take you to them and I can show you what was working, what wasn't, and try and find some solutions for specific problems for specific students if necessary. So I say it's a little bit different today, that I just wanted to take you through this rather than the usual spiel I would give you about website accessibility. I think most people would expect to need to go to a consultancy to inspect whether the website is able to hit the requirements of WCAG. And if I come back over to a website like the one we were doing here for Western, to actually go through and look at whether the menu system works, whether the color contrast system works, whether the navigation of the courseware works. Yes, we do that, but there's much more to digital accessibility, particularly in education, particularly in courseware design, than just the basics of accessibility that you need for a little e-shop or some brochureware website. And that, I think you'll find that you need some individual consultancy on to look across the breadth of your departments and across the breadth of your course, rather than just looking at these individual modules within a course. In terms of the online content, it needs to be done. But I think when you start looking in more detail, you'll find that there's other help that you would like, and that help is out there. And if we can't help you directly, we can probably find you people who can. So with that, I'll hand back over to Andrea, I guess. And I'll just stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Bob. So yeah, so that's probably it. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions about digital accessibility, what different kinds of solutions, maybe something has sparked a question that Bob just shared. If anyone has any questions about the Lego Braille bricks. Corneliu, I'm not sure if, I think he's still out there, but certainly if you have any questions about Vispero technology, I can answer those questions should Corneliu not be available.
I'm here.
Oh, are you here? Okay, perfect. Well, essentially, the whole purpose of this third installment of our CNIB Frontier Accessibility series is really to, showcase, yes, our technology partnerships, but also to make or increase awareness about the other kinds of accessibility solutions and services that we can provide. The partnerships, I think last week I was talking about Be My Eyes, and I was talking about our partnership with LearnStyle. We really, and those partnerships, I mean, you will be hearing in the next month or so, some more partnerships that that we are working on, that we're solidifying and announcing. But I think that we want to just increase that awareness so you understand that CNIB Frontier Accessibility is a full accessibility department. We're part of that social enterprise branch of the CNIB, and there's a whole mission behind everything that CNIB Frontier Accessibility does. We're trying to increase that awareness. We have people across the country that can help with any kind of requirements that you may have. I think also we were saying that when anyone procures products or services through Frontier CNIB, we are a nonprofit. We have a mission behind us. So any dollars that are realized, profits that are realized, they directly fund programs and services in the area where that sale took place. So if somebody in Calgary purchases something from Frontier Accessibility, you're directly funding those blind and partially sighted Canadians within your own area. Another thing that's afforded to CNIB, a value added, is that as a CNIB, we don't charge any tax on any vision-related products or services. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. So just, letting you know that we're just more than selling, products, or we're probably more than what people think we are. And I'm so glad that we were able to hold your attention for this webinar, as well as you attended the other two. So I think if there's any questions, certainly feel free to ask. And thank you so much, Doug, for allowing us the privilege of being able to participate in this presentation.
Thank you, Andrea, and for today's session, Bob and Corneliu, and all the other partners that we've had for the 3 weeks. And you aptly summed it up there, Andrea, is that CNIB Frontier Accessibility is more than you'd ever imagine it to be. And this has just been a glimpse into it over these 3 weeks. So with specific to the topics today, and as well, I guess if anybody's here today and has questions lingering from the previous 2 installments, now is the time to certainly put your questions into the chat, as well as if you'd prefer to ask your questions by voice, please unmute the microphone. When I see an unmuted microphone, I'll call on you as soon as possible. So again, and add your questions into the chat and or unmute yourself. So just while we give people a chance to do that, I noticed, Corneliu, you thankfully have made it back onto the session, and the technology gods are on your side there. Your microphone's unmuted. Did you want to add anything to the presentation of yours that kind of got slightly interrupted there?
If so, well, regarding the products, like Andrea said, anything can be, purchased through them, or if they have any other questions regarding other products, I just talked about some of them, but we have so many more products in our portfolio. Andrea, she knows pretty much everything about our products, so people can reach out to her directly, or they can reach out to us if they have any other, inquiries.
Great, thank you for that information there, Corneliu. And I have to second that. Is between well, the entire team, Frontier Accessibility at CNIB is a wealth of knowledge beyond belief. Andrea has her hand, I think, in just about every pot that is going there, and quite an in-depth understanding of that of all the different pots. And then we bring to the table the expertise of people like Bob and Marianne Bent that was with us previous, and the other partners such as Cornelius with Optelec, Vispero, and Humanware that was with us, and Eschenbach with Ryan. All of this expertise is accessible, and from that perspective, I don't envy Andrea for her job at all, for being the central point for all of those pots of immense knowledge. So Bob, I noticed your microphone is unmuted. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, it was just, if we have a little bit of time whilst people are considering their thoughts and writing their questions, I just have a little demo just of a bit of my old research from my own PhD. Just since we have educators from N.O.A.T online, I thought you might like to see something from a PhD from 15, 20 years ago.
Absolutely. Did you want me to give you back the screen share then?
Yes, please, just briefly.
Okay, absolutely. There you go, Bob.
I'll share screen, and I don't need sound for this one.
Okay.
So to that to there, and then let's pull up my browser. And my research started off looking at specific solutions for specific problems. And one of those, if I can find the right button under here. Yes, there we are. Trying to find the right page. This one. Oh, I'm down at the bottom, aren't I? The QuickTime Player I wanted. One of the issues that we had, let me put the PowerPoint slide, might be easier to show you. One of the solutions that
I've heard about that Easter egg there, Bob, on that slide that said all about Bob. I've heard about that.
Oh yes, my first ever real job was in industrial engineering, and it was the rebuilding the Cadbury Easter egg cream egg line at Bourneville in Birmingham in the UK. So every time for many, many years that people bit into a cream egg, it was my little bit of software that made the egg. There was another colleague who actually did the tin foil that wrapped around it. So yes, that's actually where I started. That was the first ever paid engagement.
Okay, so all the questions that are going to be coming in through the chat in a moment, Bob, are going to be how did you get
chocolate.
the caramel in the yeah, what's the caramel secret?
Now, Doug, can I interrupt? Bob, don't you have to tell the story about the tube of Smarties? Are you also responsible for that?
Oh gosh, yes. Oh yeah.
Does he want to admit it publicly, Andrew?
I said that's an amazing invention. I mean, who doesn't remember the tube of Smarties?
Yes, yeah. Yes, one of the other projects, the business I worked for was Metal Box Engineering, which is a big food manufacturing business, early food packaging business. And one of the things we did is we packaged Smarties. So the little coloured M&Ms that come out of the UK. And one of my jobs was the machine that mixed the Smarties from all the different colours to get the right number of coloured Smarties in each tube. And we got a call from Roundtrees in York complaining I was putting the wrong number of brown Smarties into each and every tube. Not by very much, but they'd statistically measured it by taking them off the production line, and I was out. There weren't enough brown Smarties. I was thinking, well, it's a very simple system. I can't be possibly making this mistake. So I went up and I looked at the line, I looked at my software, and I couldn't find anything wrong. I was there for days. And the line complaining, you were sending out these, it's wrong, like anyone was ever going to tell the difference. But we couldn't find anything wrong with the line at all, or anything wrong with my software. And out of sheer boredom, I went on the tour of the factory. And they take you in and show you all the materials coming in and the chocolate being made and the candy being prepared and then cooked together to make your Smarties. And then you see the quality control as they visually inspected all these coloured Smarties going along the production line, all mixed and ready to go into their tubes. And the room had 8 rather large rotund ladies sitting, watching them go by, and they were able picking the bad ones off the line, but they were allowed to eat them. And I was watching them eating Smartie after Smartie as they went by on this line, and then realized they were eating almost only the brown Smarties. So, they weren't eating many, but they were eating enough that there was a statistical blip further down the line. And it was literally the QA department that decided that brown Smarties tasted better than green Smarties. 3 days I spent at that factory trying to work out what was going on.
Hey, is that not a story worth telling? And I will tell you that I always prefer the brown Smarties. Anyways,
you do know they all taste the same, don't you?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So accessibility is not just as we know it today and are talking about it here today. It's accessibility to all parts of life, including brown Smarties.
Indeed. So very briefly, if we have the time.
Yes, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, on the research, one of the things we were looking at in our department was producing many little training courses for students for revision purposes. And this was back in the days when iPods were a thing. I said, well, iPods, what am I saying? Yeah. And we were looking at using video iPods to provide training, particularly in Java programming courses for the London Metropolitan University. So it was for London Met, really. And they needed to have those courses to be accessible, and the students needed to be able to type. And the default keyboard and software on an iPod wasn't accessible at all. So again, this is about 2006. So we took the iPod, threw out Apple software, put in the Linux operating system onto the iPod itself, which you basically had to break the iPod to do it. We get that on, and then we applied a new algorithm for keyboard selection. It's called transparent user prediction. So I used the British corpus to try and predict what the next letter would be as you were typing. So it was doing autocorrect character by character. Because with the iPod, if you remember, you only had that wheel, and it was difficult with the wheel to select exactly which letter you wanted. So I used the corpus to help work out where you were likely to be trying to choose. So if it was if you were touching around about where S and T are on the wheel, then is it likely to be an S or is it likely to be a T that you're trying to touch, to reduce the errors that the user was likely to make. I was also trying to deal with the fact that the people, for example, folks with MS, who have mobility issues where they have hand tremors. So they tap on the keyboard like some sort of woodpecker. So you're trying to deal with the fact that you're not touching and holding the surface. And also they don't have a lot of control over the pressure that they're pushing. So you hit the keys and slide around that wheel, because it's not like a real keyboard where there's a guardrail and you kind of stop. So you touch the wheel and your hand can just glide off. So where you touched was important, first touch was important, where you stopped wasn't. So we needed a different algorithm to choose how you touch the keyboard as well. And that's what this little pod write tool was. And give you a little demonstration of that UI running. And then I'll shut up and let people ask their questions. So this is Podzilla starting as we swipe across to get down to a utility. This is a demo version rather than one built into the tool. You see the idea, as you move your finger around the wheel, you see the overlay on the screen, and wherever you're touching, it knows roughly what you're aiming for. So you don't have, you can take your finger off and put your finger back, and it kind of starts from where you were. So that was still back 2006, but it was designed to go with a little set of training courses, little forms that helped test users' skills in JavaScript. But they needed to be able to type stuff in, and this was the little bit that helped them type stuff in. So yeah, that's kind of what I used to do back in the day. So I'll stop sharing my screen now, and let's see what questions we have to answer.
Thanks, Bob. That's quite interesting and brings back a lot of memories. Podzilla and yeah. Wow, we're going back in time, that's for sure. Yeah, it's, and how things have advanced since then is just amazing. And to see that the work that that yourself and others working on similar projects back into the early 2000s there, that you were making some of the advancements that were laying the groundwork for what we as assistive technologists are effectively taking for granted and demanding in all of our tools today, where at one point it wasn't even available. So we owe a lot of gratitude and a lot of thanks to people such as yourself, Bob, for that. So.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I've got this stuff up because I have a presentation coming up in Guelph next month at the Guelph Accessibility Conference. And I was just going back through my old material to find stuff for that particular presentation. It's why I had things to hand to talk about today. That's why I'd been looking back through the Wayback Machine to find examples of things just to chat about, to introduce myself at the conference. And I just thought, well, it was nice to see the Wayback Machine and see what was being done back there, particularly in terms of education, for people to feel that they aren't so isolated now and there's all these new difficult ideas that haven't been solved. Most of the issues that we have in real life, in classrooms, in workshops, there are solutions out there. There are things that have been tried that are available to staff who are students that have accessibility issues with their courses. It's not something to be scared of. There's lots and lots of things have been done. There's commercial work. There's research work where there's ideas that maybe could be picked up for particular cases where you have students who have maybe a combination of different disabilities, for example, and you're wondering, well, how on earth do I deal with the fact that they have low vision and they have some mobility problems and they have some hearing problems as well? What can we find in terms of technology to make things work for them? How do we build material that will work for those students. And there are answers there, and we can actually go find them for you.
Sometimes we do have to let history repeat itself, I think, is the moral of that story.
Well, a better search engine on history would actually help, I think. It was terrible with Wayback Machine today, partly because our department rebuilt its website every year. We gave it as a module for the final year computer science students to have a go on the latest version of HTML and CSS and JavaScript of the day, of the flavor, to try and produce a better, more accessible version of a department website. Then Wayback Machine would come along. Sometimes it would hit the finished site, or often find one that was half built.
Oh.
And trying to find stuff to show you today. I mean, that's why we're in 2006 and not 2002, which is where I was aiming for.
Okay. So, oh boy, the fun parts that we would never have imagined being any kind of a problem, and
Yes.
the accessibility of the Wayback Machine, I guess, replicates the accessibility of, depending on the year that you were looking at.
Well, it's the problem. It's just a general problem with sampling. It's always the same problem. You're sampling content. How often do you have to sample to make sure you hit the information that you need? And the Wayback Machine does a really good job when you think about the size of the internet. But if you constantly keep changing your website, there's a good chance you're going to be halfway through when the Wayback Machine comes by. You know, it's just one of those things, really.
That's the same problem we have with the Google car for the that comes along and takes pictures of our subdivisions when we have rather embarrassing things happening on our front lawn because of contractors that shouldn't be doing what they're doing. Sorry, sharing a little personal there. Thankfully, they've updated the photo upon our request. So, yeah, it's fun to look back, Bob. No doubt about it, and to see where we've come and how far we've come. And that's so. Just as we kind of wrapping up today's session here, just remind if there's any questions to put them into the chat, and as well if you'd wish to comment or ask a question by voice, please unmute the microphone, and we'll get you brought up here to be able to participate. So the fact that hearing some of this history though, and the problems and solutions that have happened over time, it just puts it all that much more into perspective for us as assistive technologists that we're not in isolation, and we can't work in isolation. Teams with the wealth of knowledge, such as what Frontier Accessibility at the CNIB has through people like Bob and Andrea and all of their many partners, that wealth of expertise and knowledge, if we were ever able to gather that and put it into one container, maybe one Smarty tube, there would be no way that we could fit all that in there. We wouldn't even know where to begin. And that's the amazing benefit of having partners out there that are able to support us with our inquiries as assistive technology professionals, and be able to turn to people like Andrea and Bob, Cornelia, and our other partners and presenters over the past 2 weeks. So, Andrea, I noticed that you're unmuted there.
Yeah, I just said, certainly if, people don't have any questions today, you can certainly, that's fine. But just, whenever a question does come up, you can certainly feel free to reach out to me. My email address is just andrea.voss@frontier-cnib.ca.
Yes, and I appreciate that, Andrea. Sorry, it was andrea.voss@frontier-cnib.ca, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I just put that into the chat for everyone, and I know it is on the replay page, the contact information for all of our presenters over the 3 parts of this series. So, and I'm not seeing any official questions being added into the chat, and I see Bob's microphone unmuted here. We'll get to you in just half a sec, Bob. If there's anybody else who does want, as we actually close off today, before we do, if anybody wants to add in by voice, please unmute your microphone. So Bob, go ahead.
I was just Unfortunately, the JAWS description got a bit broken up by the connection today. One thing we didn't talk about was JAWS Tandem. One of the ways that you can help students, particularly with JAWS, is that you can control their screen remotely. So if you have a student that's got problems and they're doing remote work, and they're having difficulty because maybe the website that they're having to go to or something has accessibility issues, they can share their screen with you and you can help navigate with JAWS. So if you learn some basic JAWS commands, you can work inside JAWS Tandem and help your students find the information that they need on screen. So you actually see their screen, but you control it. But you control it through JAWS with them. So it's a tool that we didn't have a chance to talk about today, but it's a really useful part of the JAWS screen reader environment. So particularly for education, particularly if you hit a point where you sent students to a third-party website as part of the materials for a course, and there's simply some content that they can't get to, and you didn't realize at the time, you can then help them navigate through. If they get stuck at some point, you can help get them to that content so they can continue the course with everybody else. So I'm sorry we didn't have an opportunity to talk about that today with Corneliu because of the connection problems.
I'm glad that you did bring that up, Bob, and that JAWS Tandem. Cornelia, you just have unmuted, so go ahead, and if you'd like to add to that, it'd be great.
Yeah, the only thing about JAWS Tandem, both versions on the two computers has to be the same version. So you can't have an old version, a new version. It's not going to work well.
It's not. What you can do in those circumstances, however, is you can have multiple versions of JAWS on your computer at the same time. And then you choose which one you use. So you can have the version that you've got your license for, and if necessary, you can have the demo versions of the other versions of JAWS, which will run for 40 minutes before they have to restart. So if you have to go that route, that's also possible.
Yes.
Okay, that's great information, great tips there. And I wasn't aware of the JAWS Tandem. I'm not sure how many of our participants in the audience were aware of JAWS Tandem. Is that something that's built into the software? Is it an additional product, or is it a feature that has to be activated? How does that work?
It's a feature that's built in. It just has to be activated.
Okay. Activated as just to turn it on. It's not activated as in an additional purchase, though.
It's an additional purchase.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yes, and it can work for home or for professional, for the professional version, for both of them.
Okay. Okay, perfect. All right. I'm glad that information that you brought that forward, Bob. I appreciate that. Any other final pieces of information that Andrea, Bob, or Cornelia that you'd like to present as we wrap up?
None for me. Just thanking everyone again for their time, and also to you, Doug, for the opportunity.
All right. Okay. So just as we do conclude here today, I want to extend a great big thank you to Andrea, Bob, and Cornelia for sharing today, and especially for Andrea for being able to bring all of this information to us over the past 3 weeks, and as well as today. Everybody that's been involved in the entire 3-part series, the support that you guys have presented or provided to us here in the assistive technology profession, in our community, as well as here for the network of assistive technologists, it's so greatly appreciated. As has been mentioned a couple times here, this being the final installment of the 3-part series, I encourage everyone to visit the N.O.A.T website and look at the past events replay page. If you haven't watched the first 2 sessions, they're certainly well worth watching and having a look for the information that's included there, both from CNIB Frontier Accessibility and the partners that were present for each of those situations. So it's filled with tons of great information as well about the community programs and partnerships that CNIB has out there as well. So in addition to today's presenters, a huge thank you to everyone behind the scenes. I know there's been many people that have been involved in putting the showcase together, well beyond Andrea and the people that you've seen on the screen. So a thank you to those as well. And just lastly, for everyone that's here today, thank you for joining us. And please remember that you can't spell education without AT.